Okay, welcome everyone. As we are dedicated by Baruch Ian Lila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba Esther Bas Yona Avram and Shmuel HaKohen by Yaakov Yamansky with Hakar Satayv to the Rav and the Zoom family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren by A.B. Spry with Nachas from children and grandchildren. We haven't seen A.B. for a while. Ed Salah from London, Joshua Rosenberg, and here he is, comes in right on cue. Shalom, right on cue, as we are mentioning your dedication. Leila Nishmas Yaakov Zev Ben Yehuda Aryeh Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef Tzivya Miriam Bas God and Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev. Then Neshama should have an Aliyah. If you remember, Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Haolam Sha'akol Niyeh B'dvaro. If you remember, we spoke about the concept of umdana, assumption, that if a man is dying and he gives away all his property, we assume that he's only doing it if he dies. But if he doesn't die, he wants it to revert back to himself. So the Gemara says, 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Kuf Mem Bava Mid Beis, 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Kuf Mem Bava Mid Beis, Man Tana Lahodi Tana Rabbanan, who is the author of that which the rabbis taught. Hari Shahaya Chayla Umuta B'mita. Somebody was sick, lying in bed, V'amalai Nichsecha Lami, and we ask him, who's your property going to? V'amalahen, and he said to them mournfully, Daime Sheyesh Li Ben, I thought I had a son. Achshav She'ein Li Ben, now that I don't have a son, Nichsi L'Plani, then give it to Chatzkel. Hayachayla Muta B'mita, or if he was sick and lying in bed, V'amrullah, and we say to him, Nechasav L'mi, who gets your property? Amalem, Daimish Ishti Muberes, I thought my wife was expecting. Akshav She'ein Ishti Muberes, now that my wife is not expecting, Nichsi L'Plani, give it to Chatzkel. V'noidish Yesh Li Ben, and then we find out he has a son. So his wife was pregnant. Then it doesn't go to Chatzkel. So the Gemara says, so Lema Rab Shimon ben Menassi, let's say this is only going according to Rab Shimon ben Menassi, that goes according to Umdana, that goes according to assumption, but not according to the Rabbanan. V'lo Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, no, this is even according to Rabbanan. Here's not assumption. He said outright, I thought I didn't have a son. I thought I didn't have a son, so he's making it clear as day. If he had a son, or if his wife was pregnant, he wants it to go to the child. So the Gemara says, duh, that's pretty obvious. The Karila, my Karila, what was the Havamina? Of course that's different. Says, well, maybe not. Mao the Sema, I might think he didn't say it in relation to the Yerusha. He was just, at the time of his death, he was grieving that he never had a son. Sahara, who become Midkar, he just mentioning his distress. Maybe we don't necessarily, connect the dots. Kamash Malan, that we do. Amar Rab Zeira, Amar Rav, this that a deathbed bequest is binding, even without a kinyan. How do we know this? It's a very big yesod. Amar Rab Zeira, Amar Rav, Minayin Lamat Nishkiv Mirashi Minat Torah. How do we know that the gift of a dying man is biblical? Says the Gemara Shinema, because it says in the pasuk, "Va'avartem es nachalasei lebita." It says in ben ein lai, right? If he doesn't have a son, now the pasuk could have just said that it should go to the daughter. In ben ein lai, then hu lebita. Didn't have to say the word havartem. Yesha, and it's coming to tell us, there's another way to pass it on. What is the other way? If he makes a dying bequest. Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Ba'avua Mehacha. Rav Nachman says in the name of Rabba Ba'avua, a different source. It says, V'imlein lo ba'as, u'nesatem es nachalasei la'achiv. Goes to his brother. And again, it could have just said, if there's no ba'as, el achiv. Why does it have to say u'nesatem? Yeshlach nesina acherishi kizu. It's another type of giving. Ve'ezuzu matna shchimira. So the Gemara says, Rab Nachman, my time alayama mevavartem. Why did he have to go to the brother? Let him learn it out from the extra word that came before. Vavartem is nachlas lebita. He says vavartem is not extra. That's needed for a different drasha. That we say that when it goes to the daughter, it passes out of the shevet. Ha'omabayle lekidu Rebbe. It's needed for Rebbe's drasha. The Tanya Rebbe Aimer bekula nemru but nesina, by everything it says giving. V'kan nema havara, to pass. Ein lach shemaver nachala mishevet l'shevet. We never find that it passes from one tribe to another tribe, elabas, because there it goes from a daughter to her husband that's from a different shevet, and her husband's sons that's from different shevet. B'na ubayla yorshinai son, they could very well be from another shevet. Reb Zera, my time aloyama mibenesatem. Says no, nesatem is the normal lashon. The normal lashon is if there's no daughter, give it to the brother. No daughter, brother. That's not unique. Havartem is unique. Urcha de krahu. Let's just bring in over here, gentlemen of the crowd who are just joining us as we welcome in Shimon Klein and Mark Frankel. We welcome in Ari Pfefferkorn and George Mizrahi. Did I welcome everybody? Mm-hmm. No, I didn't. So we welcome in Saba and Aaron Swade and Stephen Holtzman and Eddie Chazan, Irving Fishbaum, Barish Gesserman, Mo Kushner. Everyone is a gem. Baruch Ian, Nachman Chapler, Mel Zachter, Nachum Yemansky, Dr. Black, Ruven Pollack, Yisrael Fisher, Yitzi Fuchs, Shalom Fogel. Shalom, are you in Florida? Oh, wow. Yitzi Muller, Itchy Weintraub, Shimon Klein, Mark Frankel, Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Lehman, Elia Shutman, Naftali Jablin, Rich Lenner, Chaim Kraner, Rich Lenner, Michal Avram, Ruven Shannon. The Gemara now says another source that you could leave a last will and testament, and it's binding just with the statement. Rav Menashe bar Yirmiyah Amar Mehacha. It says by Yom Mahem in those days, Chala Chizkiah Lamus. Chizkiah took ill to die. Vayavay elav Yeshayahu ben Amitz. And Yeshayahu, the son of Amitz, the prophet, came. Vayomer elav, and he said to him, Koyam Hashem tzav leveischa. Give instruction to your effects. Ki meisata, you will die, v'lo yisachai, and you will not live. Of course, later on, Chizkiah was mispalel, and he revoked that decree. But the bottom line is that you see that a person could give his effects just with a tzavah, just with a command, just with a statement, even without a kinyan. But tzavah ba'alma. Rami by Cheskel Amar Mehacha, as we welcome in Abe Arbach, and we are into the fourth wide line on Daf Kuf Mem Zayin Amar Aleph. Rami by Cheskel Amar Mehacha, V'achitoifel Ra, Achitoifel saw ki loy nesesa atzasa. He was part of the rebellion of Avshalom against David. When he saw his advice wasn't heeded, so he knew that their encounter. He knew that. In case you missed the opera, we have a little opera here for you. So we welcome in Dr. Guy and Shelley Zeitlin. he had been plotting together with Avshalom, and when he saw that they didn't take his advice, he knew that the plot was doomed, so therefore he went and he hung himself. He saddled his donkey. He went to his house, to his city. He gave his final instructions to his house. And he choked himself. So there we see that it's enough just to give instruction.
Is this an asmachta? It's an
asmachta. It's a gili.
He wasn't even a shtibmeira.
It's a gili milsa ba'alma.
Yeah, because he wasn't a shtibmeira, Achitofel.
Well, if we see indication of committing suicide, that's certainly an
umdana. I guess that's all right.
Now, Tan Rabbanan, Shloisha Dvarim Tziva Achitofel es banav. Achitofel gave 3 pieces of instruction to his children. Number 1, al tiyu b'machloikes. Stay away from machloikes. He learned the hard way. Got involved with the machloikes with Adoniyo and David. Stay away from machloikes. Okay, I used to tell my children, we're allergic to machloikes. Some family are allergic to bee bites. We're allergic to machloikes. My children have used that. They've used that line. Our father told us we're allergic to machlokes. We can't get involved. V'al timridu b'malchus based of it, and never rebel against the monarchy based of it. And if Yom Tov Shalatzeres Borer, if the day of Shavuos is a clear day, that's a good sign that you should plant wheat that year. Zoruchita. Marzutra Amabalalit. He didn't say if it was clear, he said if it was cloudy. Amanardoi Mishmeidu Rab Yaakov. Well, we're going to reconcile the 2 statements. Loi Barer Barer Mamish. He didn't say that it has to be necessarily clear. V'loi Balal Balal Mamish, and not necessarily cloudy. Elafilu Balal, even if it was a little bit cloudy. V'ruach Tzvainis Minashaftoi. But the northern wind came and scattered the clouds away. Zel Bara, that's still considered a clear day, and you should plant wheat. Amalei Rabbi Abba Rav Ashi, this about meteorological advice. Anana de Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi masnin. We rely on the teaching of Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Moitzoi Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag. If Motzi Shmini Atzeres / Simchas Torah, Hakol Tzoifin V'Oshen Amaracha. Everybody looks at which direction the smoke of the Mizbeach is blowing. Not a Klapei Tzafin. If it's blowing to the north, then Aniyim Smeichim, then the poor are happy because there's going to be plenty fruit. Ubalibatim Atzevin, the rich are sad because there's going to be so much fruit that it'll become rotten and they'll have to sell it quickly at a low price. Because the rains will be plentiful. Operis Markivan, and the fruit will spoil. Not the Klapidorim. If the smoke is going to the south, Aniyim Atzevim, the poor are sad because it's going to be less crops. Or Balibatim Smeichim, the Balibatim will be happy. Gishmei Shonamu Otin, it won't be so moist and wet. Or Paris Mishtamim, and the fruit will be having a long shelf life, so they'll get good money because there's not that much fruit. Not the Klapi Mizrach. If it tilts to the east, that's just the right amount. Everybody's happy. Hakol Smeich. Klapi Marav, if it tilts to the west, that's a sign of famine, a drought. Hakol Atzevim. Everybody is sad. So the Gemara asks, V'ramini, Mizrachis la'olam yafa, to the east is always good. Now, to the east, if that means that the ocean would blow to the west. But we said if it blows to the west, everybody's sad. And here it says if it blows to the east, it's always good. Maravis, if it's to the west, lo'ilam kasha. Ruach tzvainus, a northern wind, yafal achitim, is good for wheat. B'shashe v'yo shlish, once the wheat reached a third, then a northern wind is good for the development of the wheat. The kasha l'zeisim b'shashe yinitzu, it's no good for the olives when they're blossoming. The ruach draimus, a southern wind, is kasha l'chitin, it's no good for the wheat, b'shashe v'yoshlish, b'yafal azeisim, b'shashe yinutzin. It's good for olives, which means for oil, when it's blossoming. V'am Rab Yosef, Yisem Rav Zutra, Yisem Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, there's a good mnemonic, the simonik shulchan b'tzafen, the shulchan, which represents wheat because of the lechem aponim, that's in the north, because the northern wind is good. U'menaira, which is oil, that's zeisim, that's good b'darm. The southern wind is good. Because high marbi b'didei, v'high marbi b'didei. The tzafin causes wheat to flourish, and the darm causes oil to flourish, olives to flourish. But the bottom line is we said contradictory things with the west and the east. Says the Gemara, no problem. Halon v'halahu. In Eretz Yisrael, where it's dry, so they need rain. So in Eretz Yisrael, if the smoke goes to the east, so there's a western wind, that's good. But in Bava, where it's very moist and there's a lot of water, more water would not be good. Tanya, Abishalaimer, Yom Tov Shalatzeres Borer. If the Yom Tov of Shavuos is clear, Simin Yafa L'Kol Hashana Kula. It's a good sign for the whole year. Now, Rav Zvid says, look, I know about Simona Milsa, about Rosh Hashanah. Rav Zvid, Hayuma Kama Derei Shata, the first day of the year, that's Rosh Hashanah. I Chamim Kula Shaita Chamima. If it's hot, the whole year will be hot. Ikara, if it's cold, Kula Shaita Kriya. Says the Gemara, Lamai Nafkamina, what's the difference? Says the Gemara, the difference is L'tfilasai Shel Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol, when he comes out of the Kodesh Kodashim, he davens. So if he sees it's hot, he's mispal that it shouldn't be too hot. And if he sees it's cold, he's mispal it shouldn't be too cold. Now, so far we had a lot of sources from Psukim about the Matana of Shchiv Meirah. The Rav Amar Rav Nachman Matna Shchiv Meirah is only midrabanan ba'almei. It's only rabbinical. You know why? Because if he's going to start having to worry about kinyanim, and maybe somebody doesn't know how to make the kinyan, or there aren't people around, he might get agitated, and it might quicken his death. Shema titorev daita elav. Maybe his mind might get scrambled, and it might quicken his death. Says the Gemara, Mi Amar Rav Nachman Hachi. Did Rav Nachman say that it's only rabbinical? V'Amar Rav Nachman Afal Gav the Amar Shmuel. Even though Shmuel says, now we need a particularly mischievous person. Look who I connected with right away. Eddie. It was like mamish. It was like my eyes just looked at the screen, and I saw Eddie. Who's going to be Eddie's sucker? Mark. Right? So, Eddie, can't you pick on a different person? So, what happened over here is Eddie sells, Eddie, he always has things to sell. Eddie sells a note to Mark. He has a note that Mel owes him $10,000. So he sells it to Mark, half price, $5,000. But then you got to hear what Eddie does. Be very careful when you're dealing with Eddie. He then goes ahead and he's meichel the debt for Mel. He says, Mel, you don't have to pay me. After he sells the note. What a guy. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Afal gav da Amar Shmuel, HaMeicher shtar chayv l'chaveiroi. If Eddie sells a note to Mark, v'chazeru machloi machal. And then he's meichel the debt. He tells Mel, you don't have to pay me. It's machal. Not only that, but if, let's say, it wasn't Eddie that sold, it was Chatzkel. And Chatzkel sold it to Mark, and then Chatzkel died, even Chatzkel's heir could be meichel. V'afilu yoirish meichel. However, Maidish Shmuel, she'im nosnu b'matana shchiv meira, that if the dying man gave it as the bequest of a dead man's bequest, he gave the note to Mark, the eino yachal l'machloi. There, the heir can't be meichel. Now, if you say that this has a strength of something biblical, that's why afterwards it can't be meichel. But that it's only rabbinical, says, well, that's not such a kasha. The law of Shchiv Meirah is not biblical, but Basua Kishal Torah. They strengthen it like a biblical law. Now, you cannot give intangible things. And of course, you can't give things that are not yet in the world. So, Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman, Shchiv Meirah she'amar yoder ploini b'bayezeh. If the dying man says, Mark could live in this house, or yoichel ploini peris dekel, or Mark can have the fruit of this palm tree, the dates when they grow, lo yamaklum. Because you can't give, to live is an intangible. You can't just say he should live there. And you can't give the dates that are not yet in the world. But the dying man, with a little tweak, could make it binding. Give this house to Mark to live in. Not that he's giving him the whole house, but give it to him, so then he's giving him something tangible. Or tnu dekel zela plani, or give this palm tree to him, the yoichel peris, that he should be able to eat its dates. That works. Now, the next is a new sugya, so we'll save it for tomorrow. Tomorrow also, don't forget, Rabbi Isai, we have the Chumash here. We'll look forward to that. And now we have two very nice Mishnayos, as we welcome in Richard Rosenzweig, two very nice Mishnayos in Bava Basra.